And welcome to our literacy lesson today. Can you remember what we did in our literacy lesson yesterday? You're right, we changed where our story happens. We innovated the setting of our story and we changed it so that our story setting is the ocean under the sea. Today we're going to carry on innovating our story, but today we're going to change the characters in our story. So before we start doing that, can we have a think? Who are the characters in our story? Character, that normally means the people or the animals that are in our story. So who are the characters in our story? Let's have a look at our story map to help us. Red Riding Hood, that's one of our characters. Red Riding Hood's mum, that's another character. The wolf, that's one of our main characters. Granny, that's another character. And the woodcutter, that's another character. So our story has got 5 characters in. That's 5 people that we need to change when we innovate. So we are going to use my bag again. And inside I've got some different characters that we can swap our characters for. I'm going to choose one without looking and we can swap them. So let's start at the beginning of our story first. Once upon a time there was, we've got to one of our characters, so we need to change it. So I'm not going to look and I'm going to choose a character to swap Red Riding Hood for. What is this? Do you know what it is? It's a squirrel. Very good, well done. So instead of Little Red Riding Hood, we are going to have Little Red Squirrel. So squirrel, I'm going to pop him with some blue tack on our board to remind us. Hopefully he'll stick. There we go. To remind us that we are changing our character, Little Red Riding Hood, to a squirrel. So I need to cover up Red Riding Hood with these post-its. And we're going to draw a squirrel instead. That's a bit tricky, so don't laugh. Big bushy tail and a little head. And then he's got legs there. There we go, there's our squirrel and he's got a big bushy tail. Look, it's all fluffy. What sound does squirrel start with? Squirrel. It does, it starts with a S. So I'm going to put a sliver down the snake here. So now we need a new action for our squirrel. It's still Little Red Squirrel, because he is a bit red, isn't he? This is a red squirrel. So once upon a time, there was a squirrel called Little Red Squirrel. What action do you think we can do for Little Red Squirrel? Can you try and think of one at home for me? I'm going to do this, but you can choose your action. Okay, so once upon a time, there was a squirrel called Little Red Squirrel. We need to put the squirrel here again because it's not Red Riding Hood anymore, is it? So, quickly draw the squirrel again. With his fluffy tail for squirrel. The squirrel lived, can you remember the actions we did yesterday for ocean? In the ocean. One day, who's this? Red Riding Hood, so we need to change it for the squirrel. Good job. So pop that over Red Riding Hood, and we're going to draw a squirrel. What's our squirrel's name? Little Red Squirrel. Can you practice doing your actions for me? Very good. Okay, so once upon a time there was a squirrel called Little Red Squirrel. The squirrel lived in the ocean. One day, the squirrel... Who's this? The squirrel's mum? So, we need a new character. So, let's get our bag out because this is a new character of our story, isn't it? Let's find what we're going to replace Red Riding Hood's mum with. So, into my bag I go. I'm not looking. What is this? Do you know what type of animal this is? It's a rabbit. Well done. A rabbit. So again, let's stick the rabbit to the board so we remember that it's the rabbit. There we go. Can you see our rabbit just about? Okay, and we need to cover up Red Riding Hood's mum. And we're going to draw a rabbit. So our rabbit has big ears and big teeth and some whiskers. Okay, there's our rabbit. Make the teeth a bit bigger. There we go. He's a bit funny. What sound does rabbit start with? Rabbit. Well done. So, down the robot's body and curl over his arm. Rabbit. So, let's have a go from one day. Do you think you can do that? Okay, so, one day, the squirrel's mum... Rabbit. So, we need to come up with an action for rabbit. Rabbits have got big ears. So, what about this? Okay, so Squirrel's mum, Rabbit, said, take this to Granny. So, it's Red Riding Hood, so we need to change that for Squirrel. Well done. Let's draw a squirrel. Big bushy tail, little head, little arms, big back legs for jumping, and a bushy tail for squirrel. So, the little red squirrel swam through the ocean. But, who's this? The wolf. So it's another character from our story, so we need to change it. So let's get our bag and we're going to change the wolf. Are you ready? I'm going in, I'm not looking. What is this? It's a chicken. You're right. It's a chicken. Oh, goodness me. Right, so we're going to change our wolf for a chicken. What sound does chicken start with? Chicken. Well done. Good job. Okay, so we need to change our wolf to a chicken. So we need to draw a chicken. Chickens have got feathers, haven't they? Let's have a go at drawing a chicken. I'm not very good, so don't giggle. There's the chicken's beak. And there's the chicken's wing. Look, with his eye. Chicken. Chicken. their special friends a diagraph. Oh, I've put it in the wrong place, haven't I, everybody? Silly Mrs. Atkinson. Let's pop it up here. I thought we were further on than we were. But the chicken, so we need an action for chicken. What do chickens do? Can you think of an action for chicken? I'm going to do this. Cluck like a chicken. But you, if you have a better action at home, you do that. So let's start from the beginning because it gets a bit confusing, doesn't it? Once upon a time, there was a squirrel called Little Red Squirrel. The squirrel lived in the ocean. One day, the squirrel's mum, Rabbit, said, "Take this to Granny's house." So the squirrel swam through the ocean. But a chicken was watching. So we need to change the wolf to a chicken. Amazing, well done. So let's pop that over there and draw a chicken again. For chicken. The chicken was hungry. So, who's this? The big bad wolf. Well done. But we're going to change it to the chicken. There we go, there's our chicken. Chicken. So the chicken went to Granny's house. Suddenly, this is the wolf, so we need to change it to the chicken. Amazing, well done. I wonder if you, while I quickly draw this chicken, could have a practice from the beginning of the story with our new characters and setting, because it can get a little bit confusing, can't it? So have a go at practicing it for me. Once upon a time, there was a little squirrel called Little Red Squirrel. The squirrel lived in the ocean. One day, the squirrel's mum, Rabbit, said, "Take this to Granny's house." So the squirrel swam through the ocean. But a chicken was watching. The chicken was hungry. So the chicken went to Granny's house. Suddenly, the chicken gobbled Granny up. We've got a new character, Granny. So we need to choose a new character. So let's have a look what we've got in here. I'm not looking. What's this? Let's have a look for our character for Granny. What kind of animal is this? An elephant. Amazing, well done. It's an elephant. What sound does elephant start with? Elephant. Well done, good job. So we're going to post it over Granny. Just like that. And we're going to draw an elephant. I'm just going to draw the elephant's face with his trunk. Not very good. There he is. He's got big ears, look, and a big trunk. What sound does elephant start with? Well done. So we lift off the top and scoop out the egg. Amazing. Oh, we need an action for elephant. What action do you think we could do for elephant? Elephant. They've got long trunks. Shall we give it a long trunk? Do this. Make our arm a trunk. That sounds good. If you have a better idea, you do that at home. Okay, let's go from suddenly. Suddenly, the chicken gobbled Granny Elephant up. Do you think a chicken can eat an elephant? Probably not. Why not? Because an elephant is really, really big, isn't it? An elephant is huge and a chicken is only small. Well done. But who's this? The wolf. So who do we need to change the wolf to? What character? The chicken. Amazing. Good remembering, everybody. I know this is really, really tricky. The chicken. Chicken was still hungry. So he put on. Now, do you think the elephant has a wig? No, probably not. So he put on. What do elephants have? Big trunks. Well done. So let's pop a big trunk. So he put on a trunk. Trunk. And what else do you think he might have put on to try and make him, to disguise himself as an elephant? What else do you think he might have done? What did we say the elephant had? Big flappy ears, that's right. So, and some big ears. So let's draw the the elephant's big ears. Ears. What sound do you think ears starts with? That's tricky. Let's say it together. Ears. It's an E, but it doesn't sound like an E. It sounds like the letter E, which makes the sound E, but it starts with an E. Ears. And did the elephant wear a dress? Probably not. What colour was the elephant? Let's have a look. What colour is the elephant? He's grey. So should we say some grey paint? Yeah? He puts on some grey paint. Pop another one of those over there. Good. So I'm going to draw a paintbrush. So we remember that he painted himself. Grey paint. Okay, so let's draw a big splat of paint there as well. There we go. Okay, shall we have a go at coming up with some actions for the things that the chicken put on to try and look like an elephant? Do you think that he'd be able to? Chickens and elephants look quite different, don't they? So, what action can we do for trunk? Do you think the same as what we did for the elephant? Make our arm a big trunk. And elephant's big flappy ears. What action do you think we can do for he put on some elephant's big flappy ears? Remember, he's just dressing up, so these are probably not very good, are they? They're probably like a headband. So should we go like this, big flappy, or like this maybe? Big flappy ears. And grey paint. So should we pretend to paint ourselves? Okay, if you have a better idea, you do that at home, because unfortunately I can't take your ideas. But if you have a better idea, you do that. Okay. Let's go from suddenly again. Suddenly, the chicken gobbled Granny Elephant up. But the chicken was still hungry. So he put on an elephant's trunk and some big flappy ears. And he painted himself grey. Later on, who's this? Red Riding Hood. Is she in our story anymore? No. Who did we change her for? The squirrel. That's right. Good remembering, everybody. We changed her for the squirrel. So, let's cover up red and draw the squirrel. For squirrel. Later on, the squirrel got to Granny's house. The squirrel said, what do you think the squirrel's going to say? Oh, Granny, what big... Does he have big pointy ears like the wolf? No. What does the chicken have that Granny Elephant probably wouldn't have? Let's have a look at the chicken. Let's have a look. What does the chicken have that an elephant, remember, because Granny's an elephant, wouldn't have? A beak. That's right. Elephants don't have beaks, do they? So, shall we change our ears to a beak? Yeah? Oh, Granny, what? How could we describe the beak? I'm not sure it's big. Have you ever seen a chicken's beak? They're a bit pointy. So should we say, what a pointy beak you have? And I'm going to draw a beak like this. A beak is what birds and chickens are a kind of bird, have instead of a mouth. Okay, so what sound does beak start with? Beak, beak. Well done. Down the laces to the heel, back up and around the toe. B for beak. Oh, Granny! We need an action for beak. Can you come up with an action for beak? Like this? If you're pretending to be a bird, that's probably what you do, isn't it? And a chicken is a kind of bird. So, oh, Granny, what a pointy beak you have. Is it the big bad wolf? No, it's the chicken. So let's draw a chicken over the big bad wolf. Because he's not in our story anymore, is he? There's our chicken. Chicken. What do you think the chicken would say about his beak? All the better to... It could be all the better to peck you with, couldn't it? Because when you've got a beak, you peck, peck. So let's pop this over. Oh, I'm using the wrong colour. Over here. All the better to peck you with. So we'll draw a beak that's pecking, look, like that. Can you see how that's pecking? What sound does peck start with? Peck. P, p, p. Good. P, 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 peck. And I'm still going to make sure that my speech bubble is there because we need to remember that the chicken is saying this and that's why we need a speech bubble. Okay, who's this? Red Riding Hood. But it's not Red Riding Hood anymore. It's our squirrel. So let's pop a post-it over the squirrel, over the Red Riding Hood and make her a squirrel because we have innovated our characters, haven't we? Big bushy tail. There we go. For squirrel. The squirrel says, oh, Granny, what? What do you think she notices now about the chicken who's pretending to be her granny elephant? What do you think she might notice? Have a look. Yeah. What are chickens? What have they got on them? Do they have skin like us? Do they have fur like the wolf? They've got feathers. Amazing. Well done. They have got feathers. So we are going to say, oh, Granny, what a lot of feathers you've got. Because she wouldn't be expecting her granny elephant to have feathers, would she? So let's use our green colour. And we're going to put that there. And we're going to draw a feather to remind us that that is what little red squirrel is saying. What sound does feather start with? Remember, we practiced that in our handwriting today, didn't we? It's down the flower stem and across the flower's leaves for feather. Oh, we need to change our character again. It's not the big bad wolf. It is a chicken. Chicken's wing and his legs. Chicken. What do we use feathers for? We can use them in our pillows or our duvets. And also we can use them to tickle, can't we? So do you think the chicken might say, all the better to tickle you with? Yeah, amazing. So let's pop that there. And remember, we still need our speech bubble because the chicken is talking. And we need to remember that this is the chicken talking. So all the better to tickle you with. How do we say, what sounds can you hear in the word tickle? Tickle. Well done. Ooh. Tickle. And I'm going to draw lots of wavy lines around this word because when I'm tickled, I squiggle, 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 squiggle. And I know my little boy does as well. If I tickle him, he's all wriggling about. So we've got wiggly lines. Okay. Let's have a look. Where are we? Shall we go from here? I know this is long, so well done for concentrating and joining in. Well done. So he put on an elephant's trunk and some big flappy ears, and he painted himself grey. Later on, the squirrel got to Granny's house. The squirrel said, "Oh, Granny, what a pointy beak you have." The chicken said, "All the better to peck you with." The squirrel said, "Oh, Granny, what a lot." Oh, we need action for feathers, don't we? What a lot of feathers you have. What action do you think we could do for feathers? Remember, the chicken's got them all over his body, hasn't he? So, do you think we should do this? Feathers. Okay. What a lot of feathers you have. If you have a better idea, you do that. The chicken said, "All the better to tickle you with." Should we pretend we're tickling each other? Like this? Okay. All the better to tickle you with. Amazing. Well done. We're doing really, really, really well. Okay. Let's change Red Riding Hood. She's not Red Riding Hood anymore. She's a squirrel. There's our squirrel. There's his arm and his legs and his big bushy tail for squirrel. The squirrel says, "Oh, Granny, what else do you think the squirrel might notice about the chicken?" What else do chickens have? Remember, we said that chickens were a kind of bird. And what did we draw on our chicken when we drew it? Wings. Amazing. So do you think Red Riding Hood might notice the wings on the chicken who's pretending to be Grandma? She might do, mightn't she? So, oh, Granny, what big wings you have. Wonder if you can come up with an action for wings while I draw it. What sound does wings start with? Well done. Down and up, down and up. Let's have a go at writing that word. W-eh. W-eh. Ng. Ng. I know some of you have been learning that sound today. So, ng. Ng. Special friends. Ng. Wing. Wings you have. Did you come up with an action? Amazing. I can't see, unfortunately, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to flap my wings. Okay, but if you came up with an action, you do yours. Okay, we need to cover up Mr. Wolf. He's not Mr. Wolf anymore. Who is he? Mr. Chicken, that's right. So let's draw the chicken. Okay, what sound does chicken start with? Amazing. And what do you think Mr. Chicken's going to say? It wouldn't make sense, would it, if the squirrel said, "Oh, Granny, what big wings you have." And the chicken said, "All the better to eat you with." You don't eat with wings, do you? So, what is the chicken going to say? Why has he got such big wings? Really good idea. Well done. All the better to fly at you with. Amazing. So the chicken is going to fly at little Red Squirrel instead of eating him. And what do you think little Red Squirrel will think of him flying at him? I think he'll probably be a bit scared, won't he? So let's do our speech bubble because we're still talking. And we're going to write the word fly. Fly. What sound does it start with? Fly. Well done. Starts with a f. Down the flower's stem and across the flower's leaves. Fl. Ooh, well done. Fl. And then it sounds like a I, really, but it's actually a y because the English language is a bit funny. So that's how we spell the word fly. Fly, and we're going to draw some little wings in there to remind us that that's what that is. The chicken said, "All the better to fly at you with." So what action do you think we could do to fly at you? Well, we've done this for, "Oh, Granny, what big wings you have." And the chicken says, "All the better to fly at you with." You think we could do that and get really close to, I'm getting close to the screen, but you can get close to your screen where I am if you want, okay? This is tricky doing it from home, isn't it? Okay, so all the better to fly at you with. And when he flew at him, gulp! He still ate him up. The chicken ate the squirrel after eating the elephant. Goodness me. Do you think chickens eat squirrels? No, I don't think they do either. But we're making our story silly, aren't we? We're innovating it and we're changing it all and we're making it really silly. So it doesn't need to make sense. Let's cover up Mr. Wolf and we're going to put Mr. Chicken. Amazing. Good remembering, everybody. Mr. Chicken. There's Chicken. And he's eating up the squirrel. So here's our squirrel getting eaten. Oh no! Look. Oh dear. Suddenly, who's this? It's a new character, so we need to look in our bag and see if we can find out what our last character is going to be. Are you ready? It is a crocodile. It's a crocodile. That's a bit scary, isn't it? Crocodiles just remind us how to hold our pencils. They're not normally in our stories. Crocodile. There we go. What sound does crocodile start with? Amazing. Curl around the caterpillar. Well done. Crocodile. Let's cover up our woodcutter because he's not in our story anymore. We're innovating it. We're changing it. And we've got a crocodile instead. I'm just going to draw the crocodile's face and his teeth and his googly eye because I'm not very good. There we go. There's the crocodile. And these are all his scales, look. What sound does crocodile start with? I've forgotten. Well done, curl around the caterpillar. Crocodile. Okay, so suddenly, what action do you think we could do for crocodile? Crocodile. Crocodiles have really big jaws, don't they? And they go snap, snap, snap. So do you think we could do that for our crocodile? We could go snap, snap, snap. So suddenly, a crocodile got to Granny's house. The crocodile cut the wolf open. Is it the wolf? It's not the wolf, it's a chicken. We know that by now. It's not a wolf anymore. We've changed it all the way through. So, he cut the chicken open. Chicken. And who jumped out? Was it Goldilocks and Red Riding Hood? Not Goldilocks, sorry. Oh, silly Mrs. Atkinson. Was it Granny and Red Riding Hood? It would be a bit funny if it was, because our chicken didn't eat Granny and Red Riding Hood. Our chicken ate the squirrel and the elephant. So who's going to jump out? The squirrel and the elephant. You are amazing. Well done. So let's cover these up. Haven't got Granny and Red Riding Hood anymore. We've got the squirrel and the elephant. So let's draw our elephant with his big flappy ears. And what sound does elephant start with? Well done. There's our elephant, look. Elephant and our squirrel. There's our squirrel, look. For squirrel. And our elephant and little red squirrel jumped out. They all lived happily ever after. The end. Amazing. Well done. Do you notice how we've changed so much of our story? But it's still a fairy tale, and it still starts with once upon a time and finishes with they've all lived happily ever after. The end. Okay, I know this has been really, really long, so let's just go through our story one time. Okay? Ready? Once upon a time, there was a little squirrel called Little Red Squirrel. The squirrel lived in the ocean. One day, the squirrel's mum, Rabbit, said, "Take this to Granny's house." So, the squirrel swam through the ocean. But a chicken was watching. The chicken was hungry. So the chicken went to Granny's house. Suddenly the chicken gobbled Granny Elephant up. But the chicken was still hungry. So he put on a trunk and some flappy ears and painted himself grey. Later on, the squirrel got to Granny's house. The squirrel said, "Oh, Granny, what a pointy beak you have." The chicken said, "All the better to peck you with." The squirrel said, "Oh, Granny, what a lot of feathers you have." The chicken said, "All the better to tickle you with." The squirrel said, "Oh, Granny, what big wings you have." The chicken said, "All the better to fly at you with." And gulp, the chicken ate the squirrel. Suddenly, a crocodile arrived at Granny's house. He cut open the chicken, and the elephant and the squirrel jumped out. They all lived happily ever after. The end. Well done, everybody. You have done really, really well at innovating our story. I'll see you really soon.